Look at these Abercrombie looking jack who are wearing designer gear as they cosplay as terrorists. Look at the guy sitting behind her with the bare midriff over here. This dude with the bare midriff and the keffiyeh. That guy lasts 5 seconds in the Gaza Strip before Hamas murders him.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, my name is Clevy and it is so nice to meet you. You guys, we have another video today up for discussion. And if you noticed recently on the channel, we've been diving a lot into all of this college protests, campus protests, and we're like, what is going on? And you guys, the title is Democrats Appease Privileged College Radicals. And you guys, this is Ben Shapiro. And I'm like, yo, do most of them even know the reason why they are protesting? I also asked, do you think the majority of these people are actually college students or people who are coming from outside to just make the protest inside the school? Yo, let's check this out because I have a lot of questions. So let's do this.
Okay, so let's get to what happened at Columbia University while I was out on Passover break here. So Columbia protesters took over Hamilton Hall. This happened a little bit earlier in the week. According to the New York Post, a huge mob of masked pro-terror rioters broke into an academic building at Columbia University and seized it early on Tuesday, rebranding the iconic hall named after founding father Alexander Hamilton and draping it with a giant flag calling for intifada. Intifada, for people who are not familiar with the language that is used by terrorists, intifada is a violent revolution. The first intifada in Israel took place in the late 1980s. It was a violent uprising against the Israelis, which ended with hundreds of deaths. The second intifada was much more deadly. That happened in 2000, 2001, 2002. And that ended with thousands of Israeli deaths. So now you have these people who, again, are LARPing as actual terrorists because they have to dissociate from their privilege. So I'm not privileged. I'm just like the terrorists. I'm going to cosplay as the terrorists. As we'll see, they take this to the actual extreme of now mimicking the language that is being used by Hamas supporters in Gaza itself. So they took over an academic building at Columbia University. Apparently, a hammer-wielding demonstrator smashed through a glass panel door and placed what appeared to be a bike lock around the handles. They then draped giant signs from the building. Many of them were masking their faces like ISIS members. Once inside, some anti-Israel protesters quickly covered up security cameras with black trash bags and tape, according to the Columbia Daily Spectators. So the escalation prompted Columbia officials to shut down the campus on Tuesday. So, question number one, are all of these Columbia students? No. Many of these are professional protesters. And actually, there's a lot of tape that was showing all of these people arriving at Columbia University. Breitbart had tape of pro-Hamas youth flooding Penn Station to head on over to Columbia and join the party. You can see there's Queers for Palestine here, charging up into Penn Station to try and join the fray. And again, it's all good times. It's fun and games for the Hamas youth. The university spokesperson said that this protest was led by people unaffiliated with the campus, but that's not quite true. It turns out there were a lot of people who are quite affiliated with the campus, Columbia professors, Columbia students who were involved in all of this. They then started cosplaying as actual members of the Gazan population. The most obvious example of this, which is actually quite unintentionally hilarious, is there is a Columbia PhD student named Johanna King-Slutsky. I didn't name her, not my fault. And she was demanding food be shipped in to the people who had just taken over an administration building. Because, as she said, they need humanitarian aid. So look at these Abercrombie looking jack who are wearing designer gear as they cosplay as terrorists. Look at the guy sitting behind her with the bare midriff over here. This dude with the bare midriff and the keffiyeh. That guy lasts 5 seconds in the Gaza Strip before Hamas murders him. In any case, here she is saying that she is being victimized. These people took over a building at Columbia. They actually are going to Columbia to get a PhD from one of the most prestigious institutions in the United States. You know what this lady, by the way, is getting her PhD in? Let me read you her biography. This is from the Columbia University Department of English and Comparative Literature website. Quote, "My dissertation is on fantasies of limitless energy in the transatlantic romantic imagination from 1760 to 1860. My goal is to write a prehistory of metabolic rift, Marx's term for the disruption of energy circuits caused by industrialization under capitalism. I am particularly interested in theories of the imagination and poetry as interpreted through a Marxian lens in order to update and propose an alternative to historicist ideological critiques of the romantic imagination. Prior to joining Columbia, I worked as a political strategist for leftist and progressive causes and remain active in the higher education labor movement. So this is the very definition of a professional useless person. I can think of nothing more useless than that dissertation about metabolic rift and energy circuits, according to Marx, in the pre-romantic era. My God. And here is this lady wearing a keffiyeh. Again, 5 seconds in Gaza with her friends from Hamas. Here she is explaining that she needs a shipment of humanitarian aid. The Israelis are blocking the convoys. The reason they're doing this is, again, the most privileged people in the world have to cosplay as people they believe are oppressed in order to dissociate from their own privilege. That's what this is. It would be hilarious were it not disturbing.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building?
Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
There's running water in all of those buildings. There's running water in all those buildings. Also, you're not going to starve at Columbia University. Frankly, you look pretty well fed. This is a hot take here. Everyone owes you, really, you're suffering. Look at the great suffering from the bare midriff dude behind you in the Abercrombie outfit with the keffiyeh. It's a parody of itself, all of this. I mean, frankly, as a conservative, I'm rooting for these people to expose themselves, and they are, because America should see just how radical the agenda of the left is, and as we'll see, just how far Democrats are willing to go to pat these good little radical Trotskyites on the head. And so these protesters did come up with some creative ways of getting food into the building. Like, for example, I swear, if ever there were a zombie apocalypse, these people get eaten first because they clearly have no life skills. Here are some of these protesters literally loading pizza onto milk crates, which they are then bringing up to the windows via rope, like the Lorax or something. Here we go.
Here outside this main building at Columbia University are providing food and supplies to the protesters who have barricaded themselves inside. In fact, you can see a pizza box right there getting ready to be hauled up. These protesters have locked themselves inside Hamilton Hall. This happened earlier today. And take a look at this. One of the protesters is actually putting a pizza box inside this crate that they've attached to a rope.
What I appreciate about the reporter's description there is it's like listening to a nature reporter discuss how a monkey is using a tool in order to get ants out of an anthill. It's like, wow, look at that. Using a tool. You're literally taking a pizza box and putting it on a crate to get pizza to your friends from Uber Eats because you're all idiots. Now, again, it's easy to upplay the stupidity and downplay the evil, but actually these are people who believe quite evil things and have engaged in actual criminal activities here. No one would be allowed to take over these buildings for as long as these students were allowed to take over these buildings, except that the administration appeases them, as we'll get to in just one moment. So it took Columbia fully 24 hours to ask the NYPD to intervene.
What about their parents? And
the NYPD then did. The New York City mayor, Eric Adams, he put out a call for all of the kids to clear the area. So here was Mayor Adams suggesting that all parents should call their kids and tell them to clear. First of all, these parents are awful. I'm just going to point out, if your kid is at one of these protests, you're a bad parent. You're a bad parent. You did a terrible job parenting. End of story. Here's Eric Adams.
Maybe some of the students involved don't understand what they are involved in. We urge those and everyone else violating Columbia's order to leave the area and leave the area now. And if you are a parent or guardian of a student, please call your child and urge them to leave the area before the situation escalates in any way. This is for their own safety and for the safety of others.
Naturally, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who is another person who cosplays the revolution, she put out a tweet saying, quote, "If any kid is hurt tonight, responsibility will fall on the mayor and university presidents. Other leaders in schools have found a safe, de-escalatory path. This is the opposite of leadership and endangers public safety, a nightmare in the making. I urge the mayor to reverse course." So not the complete takeover of the campus, the harassment of Jewish students, the violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. No, all of that is fine with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. The real problem is when you clear the criminals from the campus. That's when you have a real problem. Because again, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, the Abercrombie model for the revolution. Well, the NYPD eventually did go in. They went in late last night. They cleared the entire place in a couple of hours. About 200 police officers, some in riot gear, descended onto the Manhattan campus. According to Politico, they arrested dozens and cleared the building that protesters occupied overnight. Here is some of the footage of that clearing.
We're witnessing is NYPD officers in full riot gear entering Hamilton Hall on Columbia University's campus in New York City. There are a group of about 60 people inside that building. It's unclear if they're all students, whether there are outside groups or agitators that have installed themselves in the building. The echoes of 1968 are undeniable, especially in this moment. You see just an enormous police presence. That's a crane that they're walking up to get into the building as the main entrance has been barricaded.
Just imagine. Just imagine. Look at what is going on. That is what I am saying. That do some of them even know what they are protesting about? And do you feel, if you're a college student here and you've been in any of these protests, come, let's talk. I want to hear your own opinion in the comment section. Let's do this. Let us just talk about this issue. Do you think that this particular course, like the route you people are taking to have this protest, do you think is the best course of action? Do you think by doing that, what did you want the school to do? Sometimes I try to understand all of this college protests, this campus protest, and I'm like, what do you want the school to do? What exactly do you want the school to do? It's just like me right now. If I was in school, we started protesting my school. Like, even the school authorities, they're like, what exactly do you want us to do? You guys, all of this, like, you see, I kept on, like, you guys, normally I wouldn't want to interrupt the video, but I had to like talk over it at some point. I'm like, where are their parents? Where are they? Why are they not calling them to talk to them, to tell them something? Because I hope no one was hurt. They said some were arrested, but I hope no one was hurt. And if you're a college student here, if you've attended it, or you've participated in any of this protest, come right now and tell me if you took this route and if there was a solution. Because I really want to know. I really want to know. But you guys, as usual, the video start from the comment section, and so I'll see you there.